Welcome to the DIY Goalie Podcast, where hosts and goalie coaches Nathan Park and Connor Monday share their insights on how to become a better goalie. How are you doing today, goalies? Welcome back to another episode of the DIY Goalie Podcast, presented by True North Goaltending, as always, with your hosts Nathan Park and Connor Monday. And yes, you guys are stuck with me again this week. You only got a 1 week break from me, so ended up having to cover a last minute facility session last week. So Connor was so gracious to solo the episode. So we're gonna try and do a better job of banking some episodes. I know we've said that a few times, although we have banked episodes a few times before, and then we kind of catch up again. And then we're back to week. So but yeah, we are basically in the full swing of things into the 2025-2026 season now, with evaluations starting and kind of the very last minute pre-evaluation skates and all that good stuff. So we are in the thick of things. If you guys are in the Edmonton area and want to prepare for the upcoming season, you can visit us at truenorthgoaltending.com and come check out our facility. We would love to have you, love to work with you. Connor, how's it going today?
Not bad. Not bad, actually. My calendar in terms of hockey is starting to fill up pretty quickly,
Very quick,
actually.
yeah.
Very quickly between facility sessions, on ice sessions. I'm going to be heading to the northern part of Edmonton here for some evaluations. So that'll be fun. And then my beer league team's schedule got released today as well. So me and my
Ooh.
goalie partner are going to be swapping games every other week here. So I think our first game's on the 9th of September. Next game's on the 19th. So I will be in that game before I jet off to Calgary the next day. So that'll be fun. Um, Beyond that, yeah, it's been pretty interesting, pretty quiet. Otherwise, it was my birthday last week, so that's fun. Beyond that, I mean, hey, thanks to everybody for the love and support on the solo episode pod that I did last week, and happy to have Nathan back here. I can only talk for so much without feeling a little lonely. So
Oh, you missed me. How cute.
don't get used to it.
Yeah, I know. In the next 5 minutes, I'll probably hear and I hate you at some point. So that is all good. Somehow we are in September as of this podcast airing. So that's ridiculous. I did not get my to-do list done for the off season, but it also flew by. So because of that, Connor is kicking us off this month with a new drill of the month. So what do you got for us?
And we're actually hitting drill of the month at the actual start of the month this time rather than like 2 weeks into the month. Um,
Hey, still
Today
counts.
we are talking. Sorry.
Still counts.
Yeah, fair enough. We today we are talking about kind of crease movement along with some small adjustments as well. And so as we enter into the starting part of the regular season here, tryouts, evaluations, just kind of shaking off just a little bit more of the rust before we start getting back into the swing of things here. I think that this is a pretty good drill because it incorporates a lot of different things. Talks about angles, positioning, staying square to the puck, and as well as obviously tracking head trajectory as well. The drill that I'm talking about today is the cross crease push with a small adjustment back to the center, of your crease. So the drill is as follows. The goaltender will start on the far side post in the diagram that we have here. I believe it is the glove side post for the regular people who play goal. The goaltender will shuffle step off their post to the top corner of their crease. Turn, rotate, T-push to the other corner of the crease where the coach or the shooter will have a pile of pucks just inside the face-off circle, just above the face-off dot. That player will then make their way back to center ice with that goaltender making small adjustments, small shuffles back to the center of their crease, and then they will go up for a shot. play out the rebound. A shot can't go anywhere. Obviously, shot is meant to shoot to score as well. Key points for this drill is making sure that we maintain our angle, that we're not pushing too far, that we're opening up the short side net, making sure that our square is staying facing towards the stick blade of the shooter. Remember that the puck has to move farther than the goaltender to maintain angle, and so that's a huge one. If I push this drill back a little bit and we go to the blue line for that player to walk, um, I don't think a lot of goaltenders understand that it's a long distance to go from the sideboards to middle of the ice along the blue line. For us, it's generally about for somebody my size, maybe about a couple pushes. For somebody that's about 8, 9, 10, 11-ish years old, it's maybe about 4 to 5, give or take, depending on the skating level. There, we will want to make sure that we're staying square to the puck, that we're not over pushing, that we're opening up that short side angle. The best way I can describe that is that as soon as that player starts to go outside your your body frame, then that's what we want to make that get that next adjustment over. Holy, stumbling over my words today. Make sure that we got proper pushes while also getting set at the same time. We want to make sure that we have nice, quiet feet and we get a good hard push across each time. And then lastly, making sure that we're tracking down on that puck, head to or nose to puck, and that we're making proper save execution, watching that puck in and out, and then obviously making sure that we're playing out the rebound appropriately.
Yeah. So to kind of recap, off the post, step out, push over to the far side. Coach starts walking towards the middle. You make small pushes with the coach to follow the puck. Shot comes, and we play out the rebound. I like this drill a lot, and I like drills that incorporate small adjustments a lot because we see that a lot, especially in the younger goalies. That kind of panic sets in. Like there isn't as much of that understanding that we don't have to move as much as we think we do, and then that kind of panic to have to either go, and then you're way off your angle. Or the other thing that we kind of see is goalies wait and they try and time it. So they let the player carry the puck across, they stay, they don't move with them. And then as soon as the shot comes, then they try and make a slide into their save. And I'm pretty sure I've said this a few times on the podcast before, but I'm not a big fan of timing things because that can lead to mistiming. And if you're not perfect on your timing, then we end up in some trouble. So this is a good one for goalies of all ages, all skill levels, being able to kind of work on those shuffles, those small adjustments, maintaining that angle, maintaining that squareness, which is incredibly important as a goalie. So this is a good one. I highly encourage you guys to add this one to your repertoire. Kudos to you, Connor. Good choice for this month.
Wow, gold star. We need a sound
Look,
effect for that.
yeah, we spent a week apart, and now we're just like mushy gushy, all all on the pod, all rainbows and unicorns
uh,
today.
Dear.
Um, all right, you got
Yeah.
anything else to finish off?
No, I was just going to comment on the kind of the younger goalie side of things. As like I find that for younger goalies, especially newer goalies to the position, they kind of break their crease down into 5 segments. It's post, corner crease, middle crease, corner crease, and then other side post. So it's like they feel like they have to hit one of those spots, and that's where they think that they're going to maintain position. The understanding of angles and squareness and positioning aren't exactly there yet, and that's understandable. At a kid with that's brand new to the position or still figuring out the position. But I think for a drill like this, it really focuses on being square, staying on angle to the shooter, and just kind of knowing that we don't have to push as hard or move as fast in our crease than they think that we do, especially at that level where it's U7, U9, U11. It's like the game isn't as fast as it is when I'll be playing beer league or at the pro level or the semi pro level, right? So um it's a good drill to get an understanding of kind of where you need to be in your net now, and then you continue to work on that. Add it as a warm up drill or something, um, into your drill bank, and then you'll really get your angles and your positioning down pat.
Yeah, just to reiterate that important point, the puck has a lot further to move than we do. So keep
Yeah,
it simple.
absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Anyways, that's all I got on that. So, what do you have for us today,
Yeah.
Nathan?
That's going to take me into my segment, and this segment is going to make me a massive hypocrite. So, when we go through the when we go through this today, this is entirely do as I say, not as I did when I played. But we are going to talk about failure and how we've been conditioned to be afraid of failure, or we're conditioned to, you know, strive for perfection, which is, yes, technically that's what we want to do, what we want to accomplish. But the reason that I wanted to touch on this segment is I see a lot of goalies when we work with them, when we're training them. You go through a drill, they make a mistake, and they're so hard on themselves for it. You know, they kind of slump down a little bit. They kind of throw their hands up a little bit, maybe a little stick slam, whatever the case is. And we we kind of get into this negative mindset. And I know I've talked about that before. Like, it's something that I've tried to do a better job of as I've gone in my coaching career. Like, as a player, I was very analytical about my game, and it was anytime there's a goal, what went wrong? What went wrong? What can we do? Right? And I think what we need to do is take a little bit of a step back. Now, it's awesome to care. Like, it's awesome to not want to, quote unquote fail or make a mistake or whatever. Like, I totally get it. That's the point of being competitive. That's the point of pushing yourself, is to try and get to be the best that you can be and minimize your mistakes. But taking a step back, like, the whole point of hockey is for goals to go in. The whole point of like, the NHL has been changing rules and pushing things to try and increase scoring, right? And players are now doing all this ridiculous skill work to try and increase scoring, right? We're no longer in the 2008 dead puck era where, 940 save percentages were like kind of normal. That's a bit of a stretch, but you guys know what I mean. But I think there needs to be a bit of a collective shift in the goalie community as to how we see, how we train, and how we see our mistakes and how we see our failures and all of that stuff. Because what ends up happening is kind of two main things. There's either A, turns into kind of that negative mindset that is incredibly important as a goalie. Like, if you beat yourself up too much, if you try and analyze what went wrong too much, that's when we start to lack confidence. That's when we start to get into that negative mindset, because we're basically giving our brain negative feedback loops, right? Something goes wrong, we get frustrated, we kind of shrug our shoulders, throw our hands up. And I see this a lot too, where goalies, instead of taking a breath and trying to reset, they try to go even faster. So they just get up and zoom to the start of the next rep, and then they zoom through the rep, and then they're doing even more things wrong, and then they get even more frustrated, and then it's like a constant snowball. The other thing that I see is when we become afraid to make mistakes, we don't really push our comfort zone. We don't push our boundaries as much, because we're afraid that that's going to lead to, a goal going in or whatever. Like, I don't want to try this new thing because I'm comfortable with what I have been doing. And that transition period will make me a worse goalie. And there is some merit to that. Like, my first year of junior, when I had Shortsy as our goalie coach, I was not very good, but I also, like, unfortunately, at 17 years old, that was the first time I had heard about tracking a puck, first time I had heard of head trajectory, first time I had heard of depth management and all that stuff. And so trying to incorporate all this stuff, it doesn't happen overnight. Like it was a full season transition period, but following that I had 3 very successful seasons as a junior A goalie. And I think a lot of goalies like are kind of held back a little bit by their fear of making a mistake, right? And it's kind of partly the way we've coached and kind of the way, the mentality around the sport in general has kind of been, especially around goaltending, because when a goalie makes a mistake, everybody knows. Like we've talked about this before, but everybody knows when a goalie makes a mistake. It's easy to point out. It's, you know, glaringly obvious for everybody in the stands and on the ice. And so we end up taking that a little too personally sometimes. We beat ourselves up sometimes and we get scared to make those mistakes. And then what ends up happening is we maybe don't get as good as we can get because we're not pushing ourselves to that brink, right? Um, I think it was Ian Clark that said something, and this is me paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact quote, but he said something about we want to push ourselves to the point of being out of control because that means that we are getting better, right? Like we're basically getting out of our comfort zone, we're pushing our limits, and we're trying to set that new bar. And too many goalies, when we do goalie training, when we practice, anything like that, a lot of times goal goes in, goalie gets upset about it, right? Or a goalie tries to analyze what happened or whatever the case is. And I think just collectively as a goalie community, both on the coaching side and the goaltending side, it would do us a lot of good to be okay with making a mistake, being okay with failing. And it's even okay if you set yourself a goal, like say you set yourself a goal of wanting to play college and you don't get there. That's fine too. It happens. But what that might do if we dwell on that, we might not realize the opportunities that could come up. Maybe you could get an opportunity as a coach or something, but because we're still dwelling on our playing career or whatever the case is, maybe we miss that opportunity. So, my general message with this segment, and I'll let you hop in and we can kind of go back and forth on this after this point, but I want the general message to come out to you guys that goals are going to happen. That's the point of the game. You're going to lose games. You're going to let in bad goals. You're going to let in atrocious goals. I've let in goals from the far blue line. It happens, right? I'm sure we could all raise our hand for something like that. But don't let it stop you from trying to push your limits. If you are in a goalie session, that's the time to make mistakes. That's the time to try something new, to get out of your comfort zone, to try something that maybe doesn't feel the greatest, but if you can put in the work and get it to feel more natural, it might actually change your game, right? That's when you should want to make mistakes. Practice and goalie training, you should embrace the mistakes, embrace the potential of failure because that's how you're going to get better. That's how you're going to push yourself and stop beating yourself up. Stop being too over analytical. Just go out there and make mistakes. That's how you're going to get better. That's the best way to learn is to learn how not to do something. So I'll let you hop in and we can kind of go back and forth, but that's just my general message.
I've never once made a mistake in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't relate. Yeah, I mean, um, I I've seen it too many times where I'll be in a goalie session with an athlete and they get scored on and they beat themselves up over it. We had a goalie that did like a little rabbit stomp at one point. Uh, Even then, we've had goalies as well that will just break out into tears when they get scored on, and so it's started to become part of kind of my spiel when I'm explaining a drill, is that I don't care if you get scored on. That's it's practice. It's not a game. It's whatever. It is what it is. You get scored on, and you do the movement correctly, or sorry, you do the movement incorrectly, or the save execution incorrectly. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. But you get scored on, and you do the save execution or the movement correctly, it just happened to beat you. Okay, I'm not gonna really harp on it a whole lot. We'll maybe tweak a couple things, and then we get back at it again. Simple as that. Um, it's I don't know. It's such a finicky thing. Like every goalie's different, and just in terms of how they react to adversity, to failure, to frustration. Again, I being hypocritical here, like I've been in instances where I have slammed my stick and beaten up my stick more times than I can count. I was recently in a charity game, and this was a while ago actually, but I was in a charity game, and just I got scored on every which way, and just I couldn't stop beating myself up over it, couldn't stop beating my stick up over it, just because I knew it was things that I should know, and saves that I should be making. I just couldn't for whatever reason. I'm partially why I'm scared for this beer league season coming up this year. Um, but in the grand, like again, in the grand scheme of things, just like it's easy for me and easier for us to say it's going to be like it's going to be okay. It's okay to make mistakes. Um, just I don't know. It's just we like there has to be a way to collectively agree and understand that like this stuff's going to happen, and that's the whole reason why we do practices. That's the whole reason why we do goalie sessions. And so that's like Nathan said, that's where you're going to want to make the mistakes. I was watching Face Off, that Amazon Prime NHL series. The new season hasn't come out yet, but I was watching the season from last year, and they were doing a bit on Jeremy Swayman and Matthew Tkachuk, and I didn't really care for Matthew Tkachuk's segment, but it was more the Jeremy Swayman one that I was more interested in, and just um, talking about how you know, it's Jeremy Swayman's first time in a game 7, and he obviously wants to be perfect. He wants to um win the game, and this and that, and Florida ends up beating game 7, or Florida ends up beating Boston and knocking the Bruins out of the playoffs. I mean, how do you think about it for a guy like Jeremy Swayman, who's in that year in particular was coming off of contract talks and arbitration, on top of fighting for that number one spot, or just kind of switching it out with Linus Ullmark and all that, and then you get put on the biggest stage in the game, and you end up losing in 7. So like things like that are going to happen, but I mean, as for pro athletes, is that you can't really dwell on it a whole lot, much like in any game, and they have to get back at it the next year. Obviously it's something that stings, but it's part of the game.
Yeah. And the other thing too, like I've had goalies tell me before, and this is both related to the mental side as well as the technical side. I've had goalies tell me before that, oh, because it's practice, I know XYZ is happening. So that's why I'm acting like this or doing this or whatever the case is. But I wouldn't do that in a game. But funny enough, eventually they start doing that in a game. So
Yeah.
if you have that sort of attitude towards failure during practice, imagine what that's going to do to your mindset when it happens in a game. Because, like we've talked about, you're going to let in a bad goal in a game. It might even be in overtime or at the worst possible time. It's going to happen. But the thing that sets the elite level goalies apart is their ability to compartmentalize that and move on. The ability to, you know, forget about it, not dwell on it. And if you're doing that in practice or in a goalie session or whatever the case is, what do you think's going to happen in a game? Even if it's not now, eventually that's going to become a habit and that's going to become how you react. And we see it probably a bit more often because our facility is synthetic ice. It's uncomfortable for the goalies, right? Like we have sliders to loan them for their pads that help them to slide. So that's not the issue, but the issue is the skating's different. You don't get as much glide like you do on ice on a T push. You really can't C cut very well. And there's a lot of limitations that you can get away with more on ice. Ice is more forgiving. The synthetic isn't. But what the synthetic does do is it forces the goalies to have proper technique. They have to bend their knees. They have to get an explosive push. They have to load their back leg and stay low and forward through their push, or they're not going to go anywhere or they're going to fall over. And we have both seen a handful of goalies come through that they hit the synthetic. It's different. They don't like it. And the session's basically a write off, like, to be completely honest. Right. And so this is kind of the thing, right? Like, if you're so worried about things not going your way, if you're so worried about making mistakes, if you're so worried about your environment not being optimal, when it comes to the actual game and stuff like this happens, you're not going to deal with it very well. And so that's why having that kind of embrace the failure mentality, or like push yourself to make a mistake, if you can deal with that in practice, in your goalie session or wherever it is, in a game when it does happen, because it's eventually going to happen, you will be able to deal with it so much better. Not only that, but you're also going to be a better goalie because you've pushed your limits a little bit. So, like, our goal, we've kind of touched on it before, but is that 1% better each day type mentality. And if you can go through a session and you make 10 mistakes, and next time you only make 9 of those mistakes, there you go. You've made improvement. But if you go through the entire session doing what you're comfortable with and not making any mistakes, well, guess what? The next session, when you do the exact same thing, you're still not making any mistakes. You've gotten no better. You've gotten no development out of it. You haven't learned anything. You're just giving yourself comfort by staying in your comfort zone and doing the things you're good at. Now, there's a time and a place for that, like pregame skates or middle of playoffs or whatever the case is. There is a time to go in and just work on the basics and feel really good about your session. But when we're talking about development, you got to push those boundaries and you got to be willing to make mistakes and you got to be willing to deal with it.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable is the quote that I will use to summarize that up.
There it is. And podcasts were done right there.
This was the
That's the
DIY
gold.
goalie brought to
That,
you by True
yeah,
North Goaltending.
that's the clickbait title.
Yeah, there you go. There's the title of the pod. Um, yeah, it's, and I don't think, I mean, like a lot of goalies and even athletes in general don't fully understand that. Well, I mean, I'm sure. No, I should say this. Like, I'm sure they understand, what it takes to get better, but they say they understand versus actually what they're doing to get better are two completely different ends of the spectrum, right? So I think that's really what separates the good from the great to the elite, essentially. And so if you want to be at that elite stage, at elite level, then you will need to, you have to, there's no negotiation about it. By putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, be comfortable putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and be ready to work for whatever it is that you are trying to achieve, whether that be in sport, in school, in life, whatever that may look like. Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I've heard that that's part of the reason why Sweden's so good at producing high caliber defensemen is because they push their D to, you know, actually make passes up the middle or, skate with the puck or do things that maybe have a higher risk, but they encourage them to try those things because they want them to develop, right? And usually Sweden has really good puck moving defensemen that see the game really well. And from what I've heard, that's a big reason why. And kind of we want that same mentality, right? Like push yourself to have to make that push on your feet instead of on your knees in a goalie session if it's an in tight pass, just to see if you can do it. In a game, yeah, you'd probably make that push on your knees, but in practice, why not try it? Why not see if you can get there on your feet, right? Why not see if, you can, I don't know, try and make a play under pressure in a forecheck drill or whatever the case is, right? If you're working on stick handling, just putting yourself in those situations will help kind of in the long run, make you just a better goalie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and I think that kind of ties in pretty well to what you wanted to touch on today.
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna preface this now that Stuart Skinner is gonna be talked a lot about in this segment. I wanna talk.
Surprise,
Uh,
surprise.
I wanted to talk today, and I think this is one of these ones that maybe we talk about kind of internally, and we know about it in the hockey community as a general sense. Where or what is the line between constructive criticism and just plain criticism? the there is um there is a difference, and for hockey parents, I really encourage you to listen to this, at least to this portion of the segment, or if you are an athlete, send this portion of the segment to your family or whoever. um that the difference between constructive criticism and just plain criticism is how you deliver your criticism or your thought and opinion, and doing what you can to um for lack of a better term, just help make your athlete better or help make yourself better. I work in a job where I deal with a lot of people that complain, and they will complain and whine and uh, yeah, complain and whine for the sake of complaining or whining, or just because they don't like something, they didn't like how we do our job, and this and that, and there's no um either alternative solution that they're willing to provide, or they're not understanding kind of what it is that we do. um as goalies, we take the criticism very, not personally, but there's criticism for a goaltender is a lot different versus criticism for a player. Here's my number one Stuart Skinner comparison that'll be putting in here.
Take a
Um,
shot.
the lateral movement, which I will concede to, is not his strong suit right now. He is molasses when it comes to moving left to right in his crease. But people who specifically don't know anything about goaltending will just say, "Oh, he sucks at his lateral movement. He's a terrible goaltender. You can't play in the show if you can't move." Okay, fair point. But for us as coaches, for us as goaltenders, we can say, okay, yeah, he's not moving properly. Is he not getting a good rotation? Is he not loading his legs? Is he um, doing more or less than he should be doing in his crease? Just to name as an example, we're in that aspect, we're analyzing kind of what we can do to be better and how if I was to be Stuart Skinner's coach in Dustin Schwartz's position, who's no longer there, unfortunately, what can I do to be better? So really, it's in the delivery, and so uh, there is a fine line, and for goalie parents, hockey parents, goalie parents in particular, your kid, if they had a bad game, they know they had a bad game. Tell you that right now. They and over anything, a lot of kids will and probably will hate the car ride home, especially after a bad game, because it's not so much they know that they had a bad game, it's because they know that mom or dad or whoever is going to come down on them after having a bad game, knowing that their coaches probably already have done so in the locker room. The For us, or for goalie parents, is the best way I can describe it is compliment sandwich, right? Hey, you did really well at this. You struggled in this area, but hey, maybe next practice you can work on that. That is, to me, in my opinion, would be constructive criticism, saying like, hey, you made a mistake or you weren't strong in this area. So in next practice, let's work on that. Rather than, Timmy, you sucked at doing this. So it's all your fault that the team lost. You should just quit being a goaltender now, essentially. That is just straight whining and complaining, and you are not being helpful in any way, shape, or form. Um, Again, I quoted, I talked about these guys last pod, and I'll talk about them again here. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of hockey benders by any stretch of the imagination, but their skits when it comes to player tryouts, and even then, um, parents after the game, is a little too spot on. Um, just in kind of how they portray their skit, because there are some parents that are kind of crazy and will basically verbally attack their own child, especially after a game that their child knows already wasn't a good game. Um, Nathan.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is or why. It's related to the uniqueness of the goaltending position and how we, I don't know, are basically on an island in a team sport. Um, but a lot of stuff gets internalized. Like, I don't know. Me personally, anyways, I found because I was basically by myself in my own head for 60 minutes of a game, um, you're kind of like in your head for a lot, right? Like you're just there. It's you and your thoughts basically. And so we tend to be very analytical because we have that time to just think and process. And a lot of this stuff ends up getting internalized, like the trying to dissect that last goal against, or the pressure of trying to perform in an evaluation or in playoffs or whatever the case is. We tend to take that and just kind of like push it inside and like just bury it. And when it comes to the point about the post game car ride talk, the same thing applies. What you are pushing towards your kid, whatever you're saying towards your goalie, they are going to take that and they're going to internalize it. And the next time they're out in a game and they let in a goal that they know probably wasn't the greatest, what's playing through their head is exactly the things they think you're going to be saying to them in the car ride home. They're not worried about the next save. They are worried about what mom and dad or coach or whatever, teammates, whoever is going to say, because they know that it was bad and they know what people are thinking because that's the norm. That's what people are thinking, right? People make comments about forwards and defensemen when they make mistakes, but for some reason it's like 5 times when it's a goalie making that mistake. And the other thing too is this also applies to not just their performance. Bit of a shout out again to Mr. Gammon on YouTube over there. I know he's made a couple comments about talking about other kids on the car rides home as well, because then your goalie is going to be internalizing that too, or your child will be internalizing that too, and that can lead to some other issues in the dressing room as well. But I think if we look at the broad goalie community as a whole, so we're talking goalie coaches, goalie parents, head coaches, goalies, assistant coaches, whatever, everybody that kind of has a touch point when it comes to goaltending, we need to find a better way to be a little bit more supportive of goalies and to be less critical. Like, yes, we want to be, you know, trying to teach and build from mistakes, learn from mistakes, try and develop, try and get better. But at what point is that detrimental? And so the way we deliver that message is big. Like, you can do it constructively, kind of like what Connor said. Like, what I used to do with my dad on the car ride home was I would ask him, what's one thing that I did well that game? What's one thing that I can improve on from that game? That's what we did. And that was kind of most of what we talked about. Depending, sometimes I was a little bit more chatty and wanted to chat more about the game, sometimes not so much. But the way Connor said it too works fine as well. It's okay to have a little bit of constructive criticism. It's okay to, want to get better and want to dissect your game. Like, we talk about doing that all the time as being beneficial. But you also need to have a time where you're not doing that. You also need to have a time where you're actually also going through the things that you're doing well. Like, reflect on the accomplishments you've had, reflect on how good you are as a skater or how good you are at tracking the puck or whatever the case may be, and not just focusing so much on what can I get better at. Right. And that's kind of that fine line when we were talking about that line between, constructive versus, negative criticism. I think comes a lot from how we deliver that message. So, the yelling, the condescension, all that stuff does not work. If you can do it in a supportive way and, say, okay, you know what? I saw the effort was there. Real good job. The only thing was that, we missed our angle or we didn't track that puck or whatever. So next time I want the focus to be track that puck. I want your eyes glued to that puck for this next rep or whatever the case is, right? Like, there's a way to deliver that in a constructive way. And then the other thing is not to dwell on it, kind of like what we talked about earlier. The more you drill it home, the more you hammer it home, the less constructive it gets and the more negative that it gets or destructive.
Yeah. Um yeah, it's we've talked about it in other episodes. The job or the role of the parent on the team, aside from the volunteer roles, is to be your athlete's number one fan. You are parent, you are fan, you are not the coach, you are not the trainer or whoever, even if you may be a volunteer coach on the team. you need to have that separation. Because like Nathan had said, it's like if you dwell on it as a parent and you tear down your own kid in the car ride home, your kid will have that on the mind, thinking that mom and dad hate me, even though you probably don't, even though it probably comes from a loving place. Um, but they think mom and dad hate me. They don't think I'm a good athlete, and it all just kind of starts to spiral down afterwards. And then that's how kids end up falling out of the game. I go back again to Jamie Phillips when we had him on the pod, and how he was talking about how his dad was pushing him a little too far, and he basically told his dad to back off, or I'm going to quit playing hockey entirely. Um, so I mean, like again, it's only we talked about it before. It's like only a goalie, maybe by extension a goalie parent, only can understand what a goalie is going through. And so again, I go back to Stuart Skinner, and it's where I really have to tune out Oilers fans sometime, or even just kind of hockey commentators in general, just because the quote unquote criticism, or the opinions that they have of Skinner, although he did have a rough year last year, I'm not going to deny that by any stretch of the imagination. Um, the fact that Skinner is an NHL goalie and majority of us aren't. So where is this? We can all have our opinions, and that's perfectly fine, but we're not the ones in that locker room, and some of us, majority of hockey fans, aren't goaltenders, and even the select few that are ripping on Stuart Skinner, I will shut my mouth on that. But anyways, um the point being is that there is that line, and it's a matter of how you deliver the message, and what it is that you as an athlete, or that you as a parent, fan, coach, whoever, are going to do, whether it be in a supportive role, or in a training role, or what have you, to make your athlete or yourself better. I think that's the biggest thing there, because people who whine and complain, they're just doing it to whine and complain, and not be and not do anything about it. We see that a lot in the real world nowadays. In general, people will whine and complain about whatever they feel like online, and not do anything about it. Essentially, they're just yapping for the sake of yapping, basically.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, we've talked about this as an angle from goalie parents. But I think we should also touch on that fine line of constructive and destructive criticism, like internally, like goalies themselves.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what your take is on that.
Um, I think a lot of it. I mean, like we've talked about it enough already, about over analyzing, and I think that's where a lot of that mentality in general can come into play. Um, because if we start over analyzing the position, and we start replaying goals in our head, or bad plays in our head, and we start thinking about what can we do better, you are going to drive yourself mental. You are going to drive yourself mad. So, in terms of constructive versus destructive criticism, again, like I go back to compliment sandwich. That's not really where I want to be at, but it's like, hey, I did well at my skating today. Again, like, oh, well, seriously, like I talked about it in the last episode a little bit as well. It's like, what do you want to work on throughout the game or practice, and did you accomplish whatever it is that you set out to accomplish in the game? Was it, hey, you wanted to really make sure that you did well on your blocker saves today? Did you do well on your blocker saves? Did you not do well on your blocker saves? Why not? And what are you going to do to be better at it? um you know the as goalies, we have to have the mind of a goldfish, especially while in a game situation. We cannot dwell on the goal prior, and think about all these different things that we could have done better, whether it was something that we could have done better or whether it was something that our team could have done better. Is that we have to focus on the next play. We have to focus on the next shot. Um, Again, going into destructive criticism, I think really it's if we start blaming our team or our coaches or our parents or just start making up more excuses, again, you're complaining is what you're doing. You're whining, you're complaining, and you're not doing anything really about it to make yourself better. You're just saying like, oh, I played bad because my team played bad, and what I can't play under this with this type of team, and whatever that may be. um so I think for as an athlete, that's kind of where you kind of need to draw that line, is be like, if you know that you are not doing well at something, what are you going to do to get better at it? Or are you just going to say, yeah, I sucked at my blocker side, and I guess that's just the way my game is now?
Yeah. I'm curious if you think the reason why goalies are over analytical is because we've had a tendency to overcoach a little bit. Do you think that some of that translates into that mindset?
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if that is the case. I think us as goalie coaches, or even I'll extend this to goalie parents as well, is that we see the game from a different vantage point compared to what the goalies on the ice see, even the players on the ice see. As a general sense, we as fans, when we're watching the game either in person or on the TV, and we see somebody like Connor McDavid try to skate through five New York Rangers players at once, and we're like, well, why didn't you just go to the outside? You know, or even it's like, hey, there were three shot options that Cale Makar could have had, and he opted to pass it off to Nathan McKinnon, and they ended up turning the puck over to go the other way. We as coaches, we as parents, and as fans of the game, we see a completely different game versus what the athletes on the ice see. And so I would agree with you that in a coach's setting, or even as a goalie parent setting, is that we don't think about that a whole lot. It's, hey, we noticed that you had holes here, 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 and there. You didn't get all the way across on your feet. You thought that you were in this position, but you actually weren't, and the list goes on essentially. And so that can and does and will translate into the goalie's mind thinking, okay, I got to hit all these different points, or otherwise my coach, or otherwise my mom or my dad or whoever, is going to get upset at me about it. They're gonna talk to me about it, and I don't really want to hear it from them. So I wouldn't be surprised if that really was the case in terms of how that is.
Yeah, I full on admit that, and I still do it, I know, but I've gotten better, that I have had the tendency to overcoach. Um, and I can say for sure that it comes from a point of, well, I don't get much time to work with these goalies, so we got to cram as much in as possible. And that's not always the best approach either. I think in general, like, we almost as a goalie community need to like take a half step back and just maybe let things be a little bit more than we have, and not try and dissect as much. Like, it's still important to understand the game, it's still important to watch your video and to pick things up, but we don't want it to be an obsession. Like, you know, dwell on it for like a little bit, figure out what you can do better next time, and then we're moving on, and that's it. um the other thing too, personally, that helped, or that would have helped me back in the day, I think, because I was always one that was never really satisfied. Like it was like, okay, I got to whatever level, now I got to get to the next level. Okay, I got there, now I got to get to the next level. And that I think might have been a bit of a detriment as well, um, because it was always that pursuit of pretty much perfection, right? Like trying to always find something wrong, trying always to find something to correct and to work on, and whatever the case is. And I've mentioned it before, but that led to not really appreciating what I did accomplish and what I did get to do, and all of that stuff. And I think taking those both with stride as you go through your career, yes, you can have a level of unsatisfaction as to wanting to keep getting to that next level, but at the same time taking a step or a breath or whatever to look back, see what you've done so far, and appreciate the development that you've had, because I don't think a lot of us realize how far we actually got from the very first time that we strapped on pads. Like if you really think about the very first time you played goal, and then you think about the very last time you played goal, whether you're still playing or not, regardless of where you got to, you were significantly better. And yes, of course, we're going to get better as we age and practice and all that stuff. But I don't think we really appreciate what we do, like how far we've come, how we've developed. So, my challenge to you goalies out there is to stop being as critical on yourself. Yes, you still want to find ways to get better and to develop yourself and find things that you need to work on. But I also encourage you to take little mini check ins with yourself and give yourself that proverbial pat on the back. Appreciate what you've done, what you've accomplished, where you've gotten to, and how much development you've actually made throughout your career. And I think that would go a long way too with some of that performance anxiety, some of that, kind of non confidence or nerves or anything like that that comes with the mental side of the position, because we put so much pressure on ourselves. If you just appreciate where you've gotten to and appreciate the game for what it is, it's a game. We're here to play and have fun, let off a little bit of steam, be competitive. Like, make that your goal when you're going to a game or whatever the case is. Don't make it your goal to pick apart your own game and find absolutely every nook and cranny that's wrong, right? You're not going to be perfect. The guys in the NHL, I mean, Connor Hellebuck, he's won 3 Vezina trophies, still has a lot of criticism around him, right? Like you're never going to chase that pinnacle. You're never going to hit that pinnacle. So just enjoy the ride while you go, and, you know, stop being quite so critical on yourselves.
I'll leave off with a couple of kind of my last thoughts. Um, the first one is, again, just going back to what I talked about in the last pod with, you know, pick a thing in a game that you want to accomplish in that game. Is it your tracking? Is it your save execution? Is it your skating? Is it you want to make sure that all your pucks end up in corners today when they hit your stick? Is it that you want to make sure that your every shot is to your chest or whatever? Um, whatever that may be, is just pick something that you want to accomplish in that game, and then after the game, it's like, did you accomplish what it is that you set out to do? How many chest saves did you make? How well did you do on your blocker side? How well did you do on your glove side? Did all the pucks that hit off your stick end up in the corner today? Why or why not? Um, things like that. It's just like set up kind of mini challenges for yourself, but and kind of really just hammer home that that's the one thing that you want to accomplish throughout the game. Everything else can kind of go by the wayside. Um, I did want to leave off as well, and it's blanking on me now at this point, so that's annoying. Um, yeah,
We'll
was that?
remember it
Oh,
when we get off 2 minutes
yeah,
after we
yeah. Really,
stop.
it's like we're gonna end pod, and I'm gonna remember what it was. Oh, no, I know. Again, memory of a goldfish, right? You know, I've mentioned it in other episodes as well. Is that nobody in a week from now, in 2 weeks from now, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, is going to remember what happened in a particular season. They will remember either the really good or they will remember either the really bad. There is nowhere in between. They're not going to, remember. I mean, and when I say they're really bad, I mean like they're not going to say like, oh yeah, remember that time when we lost a 21-0. Like they're not going to say like, oh yeah, remember that time that Nathan couldn't stop, a beach ball, or that he couldn't, make a blocker save to save his life or anything. You know what I mean?
Which
Like
one?
no.
There was lots.
See, that's what I'm saying. And I think I remember in like one episode we had said, or maybe this will be the first time I'm mentioning this, is like I don't really remember much of my playing career when I did play it. I remember some of it, but I don't remember every game. I don't remember every specific detail. You couldn't even ask me what the score was on February 21 of 2007. Like nobody in the grand scheme of things at the end of the day is going to remember that. So mind of a goldfish is important. So I will
And
leave it off.
Connor's really Connor's really embracing that mind of a goldfish, forgetting about what it was that he wanted to say.
Yeah, see, there you go, right? Um, and again, this may be an unpopular point, but I will always drive it home, is that at the end of the game, hockey is a game and games are meant to be fun. Despite what you see in like the NHL biopics, or, what some people may say, it's like hockey is a game, hockey is meant to be fun. So all roads lead to beer league at the end of the day. So that's a one thing to consider as well.
And there's literally nothing more fun than stopping a puck.
Exactly.
I will
Eh,
die on that hill
Yep.
because I don't care about scoring goals, whatever argument you're going to making that big save. I don't know. Only goalies get it.
Yep.
You guys get
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Um. Yeah. I got nothing else on that.
Take us home.
I will take us home indeed. Another edition of the DIY Goalie podcast presented by True North Goaltending is in the books. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. If you are on the YouTube side of things, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button, as well as you hit the share button as well to your favorite social media platforms. The more goaltenders that we can bring in together, the more goaltenders that we can bring in, the better. The podcast side of things, if you are listening on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that be Apple, iHeart, or Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts, if you are a returning listener, thank you very much. Make sure you hit that share button again. If you are a new listener, hit the follow button. Check us out. We do have a whole bunch of other episodes in our catalog. Now, this is episode 72 that we're on, which is absolutely incredible.
73, isn't it?
73, sorry, see, I can't count. Nathan doesn't pay me to do that, so yeah, but check us
I
out,
don't
check out
pay
the
you enough.
catalog. We have a whole bunch of other exciting episodes here, and a bunch of exciting guests here as well, which we do plan to have more lined up throughout the 2025-2026 season. On the social media side of things, you can follow us all at truenorthgoaltending.com, except on Instagram, because we like to be different. That one is YEG Goalie Coach. You can follow myself on Instagram at MondayGC. Go check us out, truenorthgoaltending.com. We do have a bunch of different services for your entertainment, I guess. That's not the word I want to use, but we do have a bunch of different services available to you. If you are in the Edmonton area and would like to train with us, head over to truenorthgoaltending.com and check out our facility sessions that we do have available all year round. It's a lot of fun. Get to work on one-on-one stuff in just kind of a more intimate setting. So do appreciate that. A lot of great instructors that we have at our disposal as well. That'll be it on that front. So, again, on behalf of myself and Nathan Park, this has been the True North Goaltending Podcast. Nope, it's been the DIY Goalie Podcast presented by True North Goaltending. Make some saves, goalies. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.